Okay. Welcome everyone to our SOAR webinar featuring Michael Walker from We Rock Digital. I want to share a little message from our sponsor, which is First Financial Bank. So they offer personalized local service that helps you build your future and prepare for what's next. They're your hometown bank. Find a financial center near you at bank@first.com. Thank you, First Financial. Now I'd like to introduce Michael. So Michael, I met Michael because he dramatically helped a friend of mine improve her SEO. I hope you talk about Beth, Michael, but whatever you want to talk about is fine. But we are all, as everybody on the call knows, SEO is a challenge, and so it's really great to have your experience and your generosity in helping us figure out what the heck we're doing.
My pleasure.
Take it away.
My pleasure. Well, hello to everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm not the expert. I'm just a self-taught master at Google. So, and when I say master at Google, I mean using the search feature and finding things that are relevant to what I'm looking for. No, in all kidding, I've been doing SEO for local businesses for, among other marketing angles, but for about 7 years now officially. Prior to that, I was in the insurance industry for about 15 years, and I was not really all that fond of insurance. So I was constantly working on other things like running the business or doing the marketing or building websites. So eventually got good enough to get out of insurance. And, so here we are. So thanks for having me. So we're here to talk about local SEO today, right? I'm going to share my screen. And I apologize. The first slide here has my ugly mug. Everybody see the screen here?
Yes, thank you.
All right, cool.
Michael, how do you want to handle questions? Do you want people to raise their hand, hold the questions, jump in? What's your preference?
I like informal, so whatever, shout at me, holler. I'll try to pay attention to the little buttons in the chat if you guys use those, the reactions, but feel free to chime in. I'm not overly worried about interruption. So,
okay, thanks. And if somebody has a longer question, they can feel free to type it in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to it.
Yeah. How long do we have? Till 5?
Yeah, till 5.
Okay. You probably don't want to hear me talk for 55 minutes. So we'll run through some slides and then we'll have some informal discussion after that if you want. So Perfect. If it's like a lengthy question, maybe we just save it for the end, but feel free to interject. So
thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Here's my contact information and our website. A little bit more background about just kind of my marketing angle. I'm not strictly an SEO provider, though I do work a lot in that area for every client that I have. I also work primarily in strategy, kind of the big picture, but also, web design, advertising, all those sorts of things, social media, email marketing, text marketing. They're all kind of interconnected and under the digital marketing umbrella. So, but we're here to talk about local SEO. So to give you kind of some background, I'm sure you guys know this, and some of these slides were built even pre-COVID. They're still relevant, but with how COVID has changed the world and how AI is changing the digital landscape, they're just as relevant now today. So obviously we live in a very online world now, and people evaluate who they're going to do business with using the tools that they have at their disposal online, Google search, online reviews, all those sorts of things. It really kind of dictates the way that business is done nowadays. It's not so much the driving around or pulling out the phone book. Anybody still have the yellow pages? Nope. They still try, don't they? Yep. So those days are gone. Just a few stats and an indicator of how prevalent online marketing now is. 97% of consumers nowadays search online to find a local business. 78% of mobile local searches actually result in offline purchases. And 64% of consumers say that they check online reviews on Google before they visit a business physically. High-performing local businesses are ahead of the curve. This is a stat we got from Google, but small businesses are making the most of the, or that are making the most use of online marketing are 2.8 times more likely to enjoy revenue growth than those who do not. A couple little fun graphics here. Out of these two, which would you guys choose to do business with? Dr. Teeth or Dr. Incisor?
Incisor all the way.
Right?
Yeah, the stars
Yeah.
definitely catch your eye.
87% of consumers won't even consider a local business with low ratings. 87%. Where would you guys sleep? Which one?
We're sleeping in.
Sleeping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sleeping.
Because lots more people have been there and they have a good rating, right? That's pretty typical. 44% of consumers pay attention to the quantity of reviews in addition to the quality of them. Which one of these places would you choose to eat dinner? If there were no other choices between the two. I know 3.1 isn't that great of a rating, but probably the
most
first one,
recent
right?
one.
Power,
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
of suggestion.
69% of consumers find relevance in reviews that are less than 2 to 3 months old. We typically tend to ignore stuff that is older. So not a whole lot of surprises there. Did you guys know that 70% of local businesses fail by their 10th year in business? A lot of that is because they don't adapt. So one of the ways that we do that is by focusing on local SEO, and that's why we're here. So I know you had asked a little bit about case studies. So this is an attorney that we worked with in the last 5 or 6 years. We run these local ranking, like we call them heat maps. These numbers, the lower the number and the greener the score, the better. So this is what we were looking at when we ran their keyword rankings when we first started working with them. And
What
as
does
you can
the
see,
X
they're
mean, Michael?
not ranking at all. So in these tools that we have, we can zero in on how a particular brand is ranking in a particular geographic location. So we'll run these heat maps. It could be 7 by 7, 9 by 9, 3 by 3, and then we dictate how far away the dots are to determine how a brand is ranking in those locations. And as you can see here, the X's mean not showing up whatsoever. 19 is kind of the low end. You guys know, you pull up Google, you don't look at number 20, you look at 1, 2, 3, and hopefully that's what you're looking for, right? So that's what we were looking at when we first started working with them. Divorce attorney was their primary keyword. You can guess what kind of business they run. And this is what happened about 12 months in. So as you can see now in this area, they're pretty much dominating for a lot of their keyword search terms, and they're pretty happy about it. So that is what we can do with local SEO. If you've not heard that term, local SEO is just basically local search engine optimization. It's a way to basically put your business in the best position to be found by the customers that are looking for the products and services that you provide in the places that they're searching for them. And that's primarily Google, but can be other places too, like Bing and what have you. So a little bit about Google. Google's a for-profit business. They make a lot of money. They are not just out there to, out of the kindness of their hearts, give you search results or catalog the internet. They do that because they're smart and because the data that they have access to helps them make more money. Nothing surprising there, right? So that being said, it's in their best interest to provide you all with the most relevant answers for the things that you are looking for, products and services, or just answers to your questions, right? So how do they do that? There are three things that primarily make up the reasons why you would show up in a search on Google: proximity, relevance, and prominence. And we'll get into what those mean and how you can address those. Proximity, it's basically Google using the location of the person who is doing the search. Could be, you're sitting in your office, could be you're, sitting at a baseball game on your mobile phone. Who's doing the search? And then any locations included in the search query to determine the results. So the example I put here, if you're a lawyer in Chicago and you focus primarily on, if you're a lawyer based in Chicago and somebody's searching for a lawyer in Manhattan, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to show in the search results, because there's a lot of attorneys that focus in that area between that are a lot closer to that person providing or doing that search. So proximity is a metric that you can't control or influence in that scenario. The one way that you can control it is by setting up an office in the location that you're trying to dominate, right? That's not always all that feasible. So we tend to focus most of our efforts on the other two components. So the second one is relevance. How relevant is the search term that the searcher is keyed into Google to your business? So if you're that same employment lawyer and a person is looking for an immigration lawyer, even if you're in that same location, chances are pretty poor that you're going to show up in those search results, particularly in a place like Manhattan. If you're talking about, someplace out in the middle of nowhere where there's a population of 50 and there's only one attorney in town, that attorney, even if they don't focus on that area, might be the first in the search results because of that proximity factor. But in most populated areas, it's going to be hard to rank just based on your profession alone, lawyer. Some of those other qualifying search terms like employment versus immigration will make a difference. The third one is prominence. What kind of authority does your business have on the topic? So Google's going to assign basically a grade to your brand online. How relevant, how prominent are you in that particular search area? Okay. And there's a lot of things that go into that. Primarily, they're going to be looking at reviews and links to your website to determine whether or not you are the authority in that local area on that particular product or service or topic. So that's the top three. Almost everything goes or stems from that. Here's a breakdown of the local pack. That's if you're not familiar with that term, the local pack is when you do a search on Google and search providers in the local area show up. It's typically a 3-pack section where you have the stars and the reviews, and you'll have links to the website and directions. And then under that, you usually have the typical organic Google search results. So these are the primary components that go into how you are, whether or not you're ranked in those local packs. So number one is Google My Business signals, and that's basically your Google business profile. Link signals, those are all the different websites, third-party websites that are linking to your site or to content on your site. Review signals, those can come from places like Yelp or social media. On-page signals, those are signals that come from your website. Citation signals are, directories and online listings, places that your business might show up in a like a Yellow Pages or a City Search or a Super Pages, if you've ever used any of those type of websites. Behavioral signals, that's basically data that Google's getting from how people are interacting with your website. So it could be the click-through rate, people clicking on your website from a mobile, clicking on your phone number that's embedded on your website, all those kind of things. And then social media.
people filling out the contact form count toward behavioral signal?
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
But those are the primary factors that go into the local pack, which is right here. Can you guys see my mouse too? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
we
So
can.
just, this is the local pack here. So moving on to the organic search, a lot of these same signals show up there as well. They're not identical and they're not weighted the same. I'll go back here. But many of them are the same types of signals. Google My Business makes up roughly 25%, give or take, on either one of those areas. So it's largely become either your new homepage or close to being your secondary homepage. So it's pretty crucial to pay a lot of attention to this profile, building it out, optimizing it, making sure that it's the best it can be in order to compete.
I have a question about the Google My Business.
Sure.
I'm having issues right now. I was originally a hair salon, and so my Google My Business was all focused on my hair salon. Somehow, I don't know what's happened. I have some reviews and pictures, but I need to be verified again.
Okay.
And I've tried various ways of getting verified, and it'll say I'm verified, and then the next day it'll say that I need to get verified again. It won't allow me to do anything. And I
Okay.
keep doing these videos to get verified, and it won't allow me. I don't know what the issue is. Like, and I haven't really focused on it the last couple weeks because I've had other things I need to focus on, but that's one of the main reasons I wanted to hop on the call today. So that might be something we can talk about later or outside here, but I'm really struggling with my Google My Business account.
Sure. Yeah, without kind of diving into it, it'd be hard to identify what exactly is causing it. But we can certainly look into it for you if you want.
Okay.
I can tell you that Google's internal support for Google My Business is not that great, and they're not that fast. I've had great experiences and I've had really poor experiences with them as well. The non-easy answer is that it's more about like bugging the crap out of them to a certain degree. If you can't do the thing yourself that they're making you do using the tool themselves, you do have to go through their support, and sometimes it's not the easiest method, but yeah
I'm learning that.
yeah but I have, both with the poor and the great experiences, we have eventually had resolution on almost all of them. So
Okay.
there are certain circumstances where people are trying to do things that they can't do, and that is something that we can't fix, obviously, but as long as it's something that doesn't go against their terms of use, then we can typically get it resolved. Though we have to depend on their internal process to get it done. So
Okay.
but yeah, we can certainly take a look at it. So 25%, it makes up a huge chunk of your local presence and your local SEO efforts. So definitely something that has to be managed actively. Some of these slides are just kind of our approach to some of these areas. So we'll just kind of run through some of them quickly. How do we do this? How do we optimize Google My Business, for example? We do a lot of research. We'll use Google's keyword planner as well as other tools that we have access to really identify search terms that are, have the highest search volume, have the highest intent, or potentially identify search terms that maybe you didn't think about, something that related, but it's just not the exact term that you had thought about. Back to the attorney question. A lot of times, attorneys like to refer to themselves as attorneys, and then they forget that a lot of people out there that are laymen also like to use the word lawyer. I've come across, accounts where, they've been online for 10 years and can't figure out why their traffic isn't as good as one other. And you realize, well, there's not a single reference on your entire website of the word lawyer. Maybe use it once or twice and you might uncover some more traffic. So just small example. Sometimes it's little things like that. Sometimes it's big things where, you discover that a long phrase is, generating a lot of traffic. So, but we do a lot of research to figure out, what is causing traffic right now and how can we capture some of that. We'll also use some of those same tools as others to really audit and see what the competitors are doing, what's making their results move in the right direction, what kind of things are they doing with their profile that we can either emulate or outdo. We also want to make sure that, the profile is complete. Just like, you ever seen somebody's LinkedIn profile and they don't even have a profile photo? and LinkedIn guides you like, click here to complete. And how many people don't fill that out and actually complete their profile? So it's kind of like that. I mean, it's the tools are there to use, and a lot of times just people don't completely use them to their full extent. So we help to do that. There are also things like using Google for posting. Just like you post content on Facebook or LinkedIn, your Google account has a component of posting that is also a good thing to use, primarily because Google likes it when you do. I don't know how much people actually interact with it. Well, they do interact with it. They just don't interact with it as much as they would on other platforms of choice like Facebook or Instagram. But it is out there. I think it's becoming more common to be used. So it's an important thing to take to manage regularly.
What would
And
be
then,
I'm sorry, I have a quick question for you,
Sure.
Michael. This
Sure.
is Pamela. What would be an example of a Google post?
I think the things that are the best to post there, if you have an in-person, like a business with a physical location where customers can visit, posting things like coupons and incentives and promotions, things that are, timely based. Those are good things to post there. If you have content that you're generating on your website, it'd be a good idea to share it there as well. If you have, events that are happening at your physical location, that would be good to post there. Just like it depends on your target audience primarily, on what kind of content you should be posting. I'm always a proponent of posting content, regardless of the platform, whether it's Google or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. You got to know your audience, and you need to know what it is they're looking for. What are they searching for? What kind of questions do they have? So your content that you generate should serve that need. Make sense?
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Sure. There's also a Q&A section to your Google profile, which is a good idea to pay attention to. And even if it's not getting any love, maybe ask some of your customers to pose some questions there. Maybe you get a frequently asked question and, have a buddy or something go on the profile there and ask that on the profile. And then, from the business account, answer that question to the best of your ability. And then also uploading images that are relevant to your business. It could be, physical pictures of your business. It could be pictures of your products or services, depending on what those are. It could be pictures of your staff. It's like many other things. Google likes to see regular content posted consistently, and relevant content. Dogs are great. Let's have our, monthly pet photo. There's nothing wrong with that, but we should try to make it relevant by, have a picture of the dog at the office, like, Buddy the dog, who's the office mascot. That makes more sense than, hey, here's a random picture of a dog just for attention, that kind of thing. So, but Google loves it when you post content, whether it be informational, visual, or, answering questions. Moving on to links. Links are just what they sound like. Links from other websites that link back to your business. Each new link that you get shares some of their website authority, credibility with your site. You can think of it kind of like, a lot of times I use the analogy of roadways, right? If you build a business out in the middle of nowhere and there are no roads that lead to it, and you don't do any advertising, chances are pretty good nobody's going to find you, right? So links in SEO behave in a very similar fashion. We all want to be, prime real estate downtown. I mean, it's a little bit different now, but in a high traffic environment, we'll put it that way, right? So you get a lot of customers cruising by just by default. So that's one component, but think of it in terms of the credibility of being in Main Street, prime location. That's kind of what links and location do for your website and for your brand. So and Google pays a lot of attention to the number of links that you get, as well as the quality of links that you get. So you can't just have thousands of links from websites that are completely non-relevant in terms of the subject matter. What you really want to see is other websites of authority linking to content on your website and basically citing you as the expert, or citing your website as a source of a piece of content. Of course, that involves creating some content, so your website can't be just completely static either. But links are an important part. How we help businesses to kind of build out that system. There's a number of different ways. First and foremost is by using niche directories, citations, those kind of sources. Some of them are a little bit less specialized, like Yellow Pages and Super Pages, but there are specific industry sites that we can tap into as well. Insurance agents, for example, there are directories out there that are specific just to insurance agents, and a lot of businesses have those. So what we try to do is make sure that you show up on as many of those as possible. And we build out a system where we build, optimize, and manage and maintain those listings to ensure that they are consistent. Because one thing, and I'll get into this later, but one thing that Google really pays attention to when it comes to how your brand shows up on third-party sites is name, address, and phone number, and all the other things that are related to your business, but primarily name, address, phone number. If they don't match exactly, instead of helping you, those listings could potentially hurt you. So let's say, for example, your company is XYZ Incorporated, and half of your listings say XYZ Inc., and half of them Incorporated is spelled out. That will be a problem for your rankings. They need to be consistent. Another way that we try to win you high quality links is by developing partnerships with other local organizations, particularly in a non-sales environment like schools, charities, associations. Those are usually seen by Google as a little bit more trustworthy and a little more credible. They like seeing links, as an example, from a .org as opposed to a .com. They typically carry a little bit more weight because a lot of times they're not paid for. They're not bought. Same with sports clubs and groups and sponsorships. Another thing that we do is try to establish relationships with other bloggers, try and get them to write content either for you or about your business and then link to your site. And then sometimes we'll, create some, symbiotic relationships in doing that as well. Review signals are another 15% of your local pack rankings. As I mentioned before, online reviews are incredibly important. If you're not actively managing and even, implementing a system of encouraging and managing and responding to those reviews, then you're really leaving money on the table, because your competitors are, frankly. So it's important to encourage reviews. It's important to manage them, and it's important to respond to them for sure. So one of the things that we do internally, we implement a system either through, a CRM or a dashboard where we give our clients the capability of encouraging the reviews by implementing a process into their existing business process. Like it could be post sale, it could be, you know, following up after the fact, whatever works for you. But basically implementing a spot where in the process, the customer is asked to present a review. If they do comply and provide that review, that comes into the system. There's a way for you to basically review that before it goes through onto your profiles. And then, and also a way to basically in one tool, monitor, you know, Google, Facebook, Yelp, wherever those reviews are coming from, basically in one dashboard, so that you don't have to manage them in a bunch of different places. On-page signals is another 15% of the factors that go into your rankings. So it's basically anything on your existing website. So it could be the text, the verbiage, it could be the images themselves. Sometimes it's the data inside the photo file. It's an area that Google looks, and sometimes people forget. Google's a computer. You know, humans are visual. We see images. Google sees ones and zeros. So we have to tell Google what an image is. We can't just say file 123. It's got to be, here's a picture of a dog in a field, you know, whatever. It's got to be descriptive, and it's got to be relevant to the content on the website. So the more that we actively manage those things, the better.
Can I ask a question about that alt
Sure.
text?
Yeah.
So
There you go.
if you know, we have a woman on our website who, you know, seems to be a business owner, right? She's looks very proud, and she's standing in a shop.
Mhm.
And the description, you know, could be something, you know, I don't know how self-serving it can be on there. Could we say like proud Aviatra alum? I mean, obviously if she actually is one of our alumni, or should we just say shop owner?
I mean, the more descriptive you can be without you don't need to write a book, obviously, but the more descriptive you can be while at the same time trying to be relevant to the page where the content shows up, the better.
So
Does that
does
help?
it ding you if you say like your own business name in the alt
No,
text?
not necessarily, but I wouldn't necessarily do it on every image on your site.
Okay.
The biggest thing is too, because Google will look at that as kind of like keyword stuffing, and we don't necessarily want to overdo it. If we're trying to rank for a keyword, we want to probably mention it more than once. So each page, you should also have your own strategy for ranking a certain keyword. And typically the homepage is going to be your business name or your primary, industry or service that you provide. All the other pages on your website should have something different that you're primarily looking to target. So especially when you get into your blogs, they should be a little bit more specific. But then when it comes to the alt text and the tags, it's okay to mention the business name, but I think the primary focus should be to make the description of the image as accurate as possible. Like think with your eyes closed, right? What's in that picture? And write that. And then try to make that as applicable to the content on the page and the brand as possible.
Okay. So maybe that might say something like small business owner working hard to grow her business.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Jazz, we're going to put that in there. That was good. Thanks.
All right. Let's see. So on page signals, we talked a little bit about some of this already, but title tags, headers. It sounds like some of you guys know some of this stuff already, but each page has its own, meta description. When you go on Google and search for anything, the results that come up, you've got your title as well as the description of what that search result is. And if you're not actively managing those descriptions, Google's going to do it for you by pulling, potentially random text from that page, whatever they think is going to be most relevant. And that's not always what we want it to be. So it's important to make sure that you know how to do that, or have a system to make sure that those are managed. You can change the title, how it's displayed on Google. You can dictate the tag itself, the images. I mean, we have a laundry list of things that we do on every single page. I don't know how in the weeds you want to get. I probably bore everybody to tears if we got into all of that, but I think the biggest takeaway to have is just to make sure that somebody internally is mindful in managing these things on an ongoing basis. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. That's why the term optimization is there. It's never done. It's optimized, right? And Google's going to change their algorithm a month from now, or things change within the business. It's something we always have to be mindful of. So, and it's not just content too. It's also how fast does the page load? Does it make sense? How does it flow? Like if I'm not the business, if I'm a consumer and I've never heard of you, is the page easy to navigate? And does it make sense am I getting the information that I'm looking for? If I searched for dog walkers and I wound up on your page because, you ranked for that keyword, and then it takes me to some strange article, I'm going to quickly click off of that page. And eventually, Google's going to see that. Goes back into the page behavior. Google will see that. You're going to start ranking less and less because people are not getting what they're looking for. If everybody that visits your website is clicking off within less than a second, then Google knows that that's not relevant. So they're not going to rank you anymore. So it's technical, it's content, it's user experience, it's all that stuff wrapped in together. Citation signals, we talked about those a little bit. Basically, local citations, directories, listings. Again, our biggest thing that we do there is to set up a system. We basically we audit first, make sure, see where you are showing up, where you're already listed. We will build you out on all the directories that are out there. There are roughly 70 plus that you can actively manage yourself. And once upon a time, when I was first getting started, back when I was in insurance, I did this one by one myself manually, and it's a pain in the butt, I can tell you. There's another 200 or 300 of them out there that do show up, but you can't directly, create a login and manage your own information. You have to go through these other intermediaries, like these big data companies that then feed the data to them. You guys probably get phone calls from them all the time, like, hey, we're calling to update your free listing. Those are, can't hardly understand them half the time, but either it's one of those data companies or it's another, marketing company trying to sell you a service to do it for you. So, but we can help you build the ones that are out there. We have relationships with and tools where we can basically set up and manage and monitor and lock down your information on all of them so that your listings are consistent across the board, particularly that name, address, and phone number, because we tend to not answer the phone call for those, hey, we're calling to update your free listing. And sometimes they just put whatever they decide is the best, and that can wind up affecting your results too. So that's what goes into your rankings. Primary, big picture stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit also about Google My Business before we get out of here. So I've got 12 things here that you can do right now. And if you do them, most likely you're going to be outdoing your competition. These are all things that you can do on your own. Certainly things we can help with if you need. But biggest thing is claim your profile. If you haven't already done that, I can't stress strongly enough to make sure that you or someone that you trust is doing that. It's not too difficult. As long as you have a Google account, go to google.com/business and click manage or claim your profile. Next thing, I mentioned this when we were talking about LinkedIn, but fill out every single thing that it asks for. Start at the top left, move all the way down. In each one of those sections where you have an open field, give it some information. That you'll get the majority of the way just by doing those things. And a lot of business owners don't. I can tell you almost every single time somebody says, hey, can you help me out with this? I get logged in and 90% of it is not filled out. So that's a big step. And specifically name, address, phone number again. I harp on that a lot because it's important. But a few specific things to identify with your Google business profile. You have primary and secondary categories there in the profile. You're going to want to make sure you choose those that are the most relevant. And I would recommend choosing any that are, both, particularly in that secondary. Like if you have, back to insurance, for example, lots of insurance agents have different types of insurance or, coverages that they write. So that would be an example of a secondary service. It could be home insurance, it could be auto insurance, it could be motorcycle insurance. Pick as many of those as that'll allow you to do that are relevant. With the caveat, don't pick a lot of stuff that maybe you might do. Stick to the stuff that's, your bread and butter. Attributes, you probably see these in relevant profiles, but like for a restaurant, for example, do they have dine-in, takeout, and delivery? Make sure you indicate those things in your profile if the field is there to fill out, because they will make a difference as well. Write a complete from the business description, just like your meta descriptions on search results. If you don't fill this out, it's either not going to be there or Google's going to write one for you. So highly recommend that if you want your brand and your voice to be, presented here, to fill that out, because it will show up. Once again, publish Google posts weekly. Consistency wins in this category. Obviously you want to be posting content for your audience, but I can't stress enough the importance of just doing it and doing it regularly, because Google will see that and they will reward you for doing so. Same with photos. Photos show the world and Google that you are real and that things are actually happening there. And, people like to do business with people, and they like to see people's faces, and they like to see happy people, experiencing the products and services. So share that with the world, and Google will take notice. Ask and answer questions. I mentioned this earlier. This shows up in the Google My Business profile as well, underneath your address, usually under the reviews and above the posts. And again, I always recommend if there's no activity there, just think of like the most commonly asked questions you get and ask some of your networking partners or friends and family to ask some questions there, just to get some extra activity. Products and services. There's a component inside your profile where you can actually add your products and services. This is a little bit different than the categories and subcategories, but what you can do is you can add some of your specific products and services that you offer. You can add a specific description for that product and service, and you can also add a photo as well. And Google likes seeing those listed there as well. Collect and respond to reviews. We talked about this, but huge component that goes into your rankings. So make sure you have an ongoing program to encourage and manage those reviews. Set up messaging. Did you guys know that you can offer messaging through Google Maps and Google My Business to your customers? Or have you discovered that exists randomly because some person messaged you and why is somebody messaging me through Google Maps? Well, they introduced this a few years ago, and it gives basically, especially when you're on a mobile, if you pull up something on Google Maps and you're interested and you have a question, Google, you have to activate this. Sometimes it gets activated. I've seen it where business owners didn't know how it got activated, and maybe they did it on accident or somebody else did it for them, but it has to be activated. But it gives your customers a way to basically chat with you through your Google Maps listing. And people are using that increasingly. So I do recommend turning that on. And dedicating a person on staff to have Google Maps on their phone, logged in with the right profile so that you can see those messages. Or there are tools out there that you can integrate with your account so that you can have them dump those messages into your CRM, for example. But Google likes seeing that channel active. This goes back to Google being a business. They like it when people stay on platform, because the more people stay on platform, the more they see Google ads, and the more that they can sell ads. So they like it when that channel is active. And so I would recommend that you add that to your account. And
How do the messages pop up? Like, how would we get notified if we had somebody messaging us?
right inside your Google Maps.
Oh, mercy. So there's not like any other, like, it doesn't come to our email or something?
Not by email,
Ugh,
but
sounds dangerous. Like, I'm sure
there is I know, like the marketing CRM that we implement for clients, we have an integration set up where we call it like the unified inbox, where we have Facebook messaging, Google business messaging, Instagram, kind of in one funnel. So it's a little bit easier to monitor. I think the Maps thing is a little bit clunky personally. And it used to be that Google My Business had its own separate app. And I don't know if it's because of internally they decided that department needed less funding, or they were kind of like Maps, but they folded them in together, and somebody made the decision that, all the messaging would go through Maps. And I personally don't like it either. I think it's clunky. So we usually just manage it through the CRM personally.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And that was the 12. So that's all I had. That's my local SEO spiel in a nutshell. So
It was super helpful. So we do have some questions from chat. Let me read one
Sure.
to you here. It said, can you please share more about links to your website? Pamela, do you want to expand on that?
He actually, if that's what he went into later, and because I made this comment on the front end of the presentation when he was doing the overview, but I believe he was referring to the links other business would link your business in a post or LinkedIn or somewhere else. He was referring to those links. I think I got my answer.
Great. Thank you. Hey, Michael, can you stop sharing and we'll go back to standard view? Thank you. Okay, so another question. I assume search factors are tweaked over time. Is there somewhere these factors are easy to access? Craig asked that question. Craig, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, again, that was earlier in the presentation.
Okay.
Just to confirm though, Michael, if we go into our Google My Business, those factors and the weighting will be available to us.
No, a lot of this stuff comes from reports from, real world data, our experience, not just mine and my company, but other companies that, monitor large amounts of data. Google doesn't go out there and say, hey, everybody, this is the algorithm. These are all of our ranking factors. It's more of a measure and, make a best guess hypothesis based on, experience and traffic and what have you. These are things that we know to be close to true, but we can't guarantee that they are 100% true and always will be. And they change because every couple of months, if not more frequently, they roll out a new update to the algorithm. There is the head of search for Google. His name's John Mueller. He will occasionally come out and do an interview fairly regularly. Actually, he's pretty active on LinkedIn and Twitter, but he basically will come out and dispel any myths that the SEO industry will, develop or, hold on to. And he'll come out and say, you guys used to think this and it's not true anymore. Or, but they don't give us specific details. It's really just kind of, we got to monitor things and what happens and adjust. And, a lot of it is testing. Once upon a time, you could just blog about whatever and stuff it full of keywords. You probably remember 20 years ago, you come across a website, because you were searching for something and it's like, well, that was clearly written by somebody in another country that doesn't even understand our language, but it had a bunch of keywords that worked. well, they've gotten a lot smarter over the years. You know, they're cataloging the data and figuring out new ways to serve that data up. You know, they're constantly optimizing as well. So to say that, you know, the factors are going to remain concrete and consistent, can't say that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that
So
help?
yeah. So if I were trying to stay on top of those factors, it'd be really coming from like a group like yours to provide those, or is there somewhere on
There
the
are,
internet that's relevant? Yeah.
yeah, there are lots of periodicals out there, you know, authorities on the topic that have way more data than we do. I would not consider us a data company as much as a service provider.
Okay.
But the information's out there, and I can send you some links if you want to stay, you know, kind of plugged into the industry. Like
Yeah, that'd be great.
off the top of my head, there's like Search Engine Land, I think is one of them. And they typically, yeah, that's probably one. You'll see a lot of good information come out of that one. It's just searchengineland.com.
Thank
Got
But
you.
there are a lot of sites like that.
Greg, you
Thank
also
you.
had a question about the Q&A for your Google profile. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of the factors were all about consistency and posting consistency. Is that the same with Q&A as well?
Yeah, I don't think it factors as much, at least not currently. It's one of these components that Google rolled out a couple of years ago. Obviously, you know, industry-wide, all industries, I should say, people really locked on to, you know, the whole review thing, right? You remember 20 years ago, there was no review online system. It was word of mouth, and there were services that you could contact, right? But mostly, you know, there wasn't like an online reviews mechanism, whether it would be Yelp or anything else. Now it's everywhere. You know, it's not just Google and Yelp. Like there are a plethora of, you know, sites out there that all they do is, you know, reviews for businesses in various industries. So that component, I think, is so popular that the consistency really matters. You know, like if you go a year without getting any reviews, that's going to affect you negatively. Whereas Q&A, I don't think the user adoption has ever gotten to the point where Google is really weighting that heavily. But again, that's more an inference from, you know, my experience, not necessarily a concrete yes or no to the answer.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, Michael, Amy said that she's a home-based business. Can she somehow, you know, have a Google My Business profile without including her address?
Yeah, it's possible. It's a little bit more challenging. We refer to those as service area businesses.
Okay.
Google even has a component in the profile to basically hide the home address and indicate that, you know, basically you don't have a storefront. You're servicing the local area, but you don't have a place where customers can visit. That's okay. And they understand that that is, you know, a very real thing for many people, many businesses. They don't necessarily make it easy on you, though. We run into the same issue with realtors, for example, like, you know, the Huff building out in Florence. There's a number of different realtors that all work there, and they pay their dues, and that's their address, but they're all technically separate businesses, and Google doesn't like that because they're in a business location. They don't have their own signage. It's just the main store. So that's an even bigger challenge, but there's all these, not every business is the same. And I think over time they will do a better job at addressing that issue, but it's not impossible. You just have to make sure that the signals that we talked about are telling Google the right things, you know? So it's important in your website and your profile to mention not just your products and services, but where they're offered, you know, referencing local landmarks and communities and what have you is gonna make a difference. So it's possible. It's just a little bit more challenging. You just got to be creative with the way that you're, you know, optimizing your profile.
Okay.
There are other listings and citations out there that don't make it very easy for home-based businesses, to be perfectly honest. I think it's something that's evolving, but there's a lot of listings out there when we're talking about citations where they require an address, unfortunately.
And you can't use like a
So-
PO box or something, right?
I mean, you can, but that's not technically a physical location, so Google doesn't necessarily, I would call that like a null set. They don't necessarily, look at that positively or negatively. But we do have to have consistency in the naming and address and the phone
Okay.
number. So,
Okay. Alexia asked, is there a way to get verified without video?
so back to that question, are they basically asking you to film a video on site at your location and upload that through their system? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, basically. And I too work from home
Yeah,
and I'm a solopreneur, so I'm not really all that interested in everybody knowing where I live when they Google my business.
got
But
it. Yeah.
I don't know. I've been able to hide my address. Well, back in the beginning when I first had my Google account, it was like it had that little circle around it like you get on Airbnb. So the
Yeah.
region, but
Right.
not the actual address.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that that's the other part that bothers me with their internal support is I have not always seen that handled in a uniform way. I've seen people get around it, and I've seen some people like they will not budge, and they require certain information in order to get verified. So we take it on a case by case basis, and we try to do the best we can. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you on that, but there is a way to do like a search area or a local service area business, but
Mhm.
Jumping through their hoops is a bit of a pain.
Okay. Thank you.
Another question, Pamela, how important is it to blog and how frequently should you blog just for your general SEO?
I think it's very important to create regular content. Regular can mean a lot of different things. There's not one specific answer to that question. It's going to be dependent upon the audience and the subject matter. I would say you should probably shoot your efforts towards at least once a month, but I wouldn't spit out content that isn't high quality. Make sure that you do your homework on what the audience is looking for. Always put on the mindset that, your customers have questions, and we need to proactively answer them as thoroughly and as transparently as we can, because that will equate to traffic. So when we do our homework to create the content, it's got to be have that in mind. The target has to be to answer questions, but it's also got to be thorough and in depth. Try to outdo the content that's out there. If the question comes up and has been addressed by other websites, you can try to outdo the content that's out there, or you can try to answer questions in a way that haven't been answered yet. That's another angle that works well. But the biggest thing is to constantly be putting out information that people are actually looking for, as opposed to just creating content for the sake of it and for the schedule,
Yeah.
And I think doing once a month is better than doing 26 in the first 2 months and then not doing anything for the rest of the year. Consistency is important.
Great.
On the topic of that, just thinking out loud here about being a thought leader, and tapping into networks on LinkedIn and that sort of thing. Sometimes people aren't asking the questions that you want to answer. You're wanting to answer a different question. So like as an executive coach, I'm answering a different question than most people are asking.
Sure.
So I don't know if I'm going around in a circle here with you, but I guess the thing that I'm saying is sometimes you want to answer a different question, but you have to put it in a format possibly that would show up when they're asking a different question. Does that make sense? Or, you know what I'm saying? No. It's a deeper
little bit,
question.
a little bit.
It's a high, so the question that I would be asking people and causing people to ask is a little bit higher purpose than say what people typically use as a Google search for a coach.
Yeah.
You know, what if it was, you know, something like, how do I get that promotion? Right. And so now you're really trying to answer that question about how you get a promotion. It's really about being the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think
yeah.
trying to think outside of the box and come up with different ways of, you know, wording the questions that your target prospect might be asking. You know, sometimes it's hard for any of us to get out of our own perspective, our own shoes, and think about it from a layperson's, but that's from a
Versus the
Google angle.
expert.
That's from a Google angle, that's kind of what we need to do. And frankly, one of the things that you can do, you ever notice, like when you type one word in the Google search bar, it also suggests a bunch of other things, like I'm just gonna how to. I just typed how to in my search bar, and the first thing it suggested was how to screenshot on Windows. So, like, let's say if I was an IT company, that might be the first thing I blog about, how to screenshot on Windows, because it's what a bunch of people are searching for, strangely enough. You know, what is something that people typically ask you, just as an example, or something you wish they would?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, a question would be, how do I become the best leader I can become while remaining true to my values and not selling out?
Is that one a question that you would want them to ask, or what they are actually asking?
Oh, well, I mean, that's the question I answer. So I want
This
them
is-
to ask me a question that I know the answer to.
Well, but I mean, like, what would they, so if I said, how do I become a good leader? You would probably translate it into that question, right? You would say,
Yeah.
many people ask me, you know, that how they can become the best leader without compromising their values. Here's what I tell them, right? So you,
Yeah.
even though I didn't ask that a second piece, it probably is what I want to know. I probably just hadn't thought to ask it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could start off with a blog that is answering that very question, and then you can also, like, I just typed that into Google without hitting enter. Some of the other things, how I typed, how do I become a better leader? How to be a good leader in school, how to be a good leader and manager, how to be good leader quotes. So that's an idea. How about we create a blog with 10 great quotes on how to be a better leader? You know, you can curate quotes from around, you know, the internet that speak to you and your values as an executive coach, and then write a, you know, kind of synopsis, you know, your reaction to each one of those quotes. I mean, it's just, there's like a
good.
limitless amount of stuff out there that you can just
good.
pluck from free resources like Google.
Yeah.
And frankly, you ever play around with Chat GPT at all?
Yeah, I do have a little button that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty powerful resource that everybody has at their disposal now too, where just like it sounds, chat, it's very conversational. So it's when in comparison to Google search, AI has a lot more capabilities than just, you know, what's out there on the internet. But from a conversational standpoint, it has a lot of things that you can do with content ideas and creation. Just like, give me 10 ways to ask this question in a different way, and it'll spit them right at you in like 10 seconds, if that.
Yeah. I just started poking around in that area. So
yeah,
there's so much to learn.
Another way that I identify things that are generating traffic, I will Google for, you know, a search term, or maybe a topic for a blog that I feel like is a good topic for our site, and I will look at maybe the top 3, 4, 5 different websites that come up, and I'll go to those sites, and I will, use some of my tools that I have to identify how much traffic is being generated from each of their sub pages. Like I'll go to their blog and, you know, just for the sake of example, let's say it's like cars.com, and we'll go straight to their blog and we'll look at all the different blog articles that they have and see which ones are generating the most traffic. So if I also have a car related website, it seems like that's a topic that I might want to also write about or have some content to address that question too. So that's another way you can, you know, zero in on things that are generating traffic in a given subject matter.
Anybody else have any other questions for Michael? Michael, this has been unbelievably helpful. Thank you so much. We're going to share we had 26 people register for this webinar, so we're going to share the recording with them and then we'll put it on our YouTube. Sure. So if there's anything that you'd like to send me, you know, certainly we'll link to your website and all that, but if there's anything else that you'd like me to send, that you'd like to send me to share out, I would be happy to do that.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Everybody, thank you so much. Just let's give Michael a little round of applause because it was really strong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll also add that we offer free online assessments. We basically call it like an audit, where we have tools where we can scan all of your website, your Google My Business, your social media, and really kind of give you a grade on how you're doing in a lot of different areas. And whether that actually turns into a relationship for us or not, totally cool. But it will help you kind of zero in on things that you might be aware of, things that you might not be aware of, but just give you kind of a game plan on things that you should address to get a little bit better results in your efforts.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Michael, I don't know what you're doing the startup week, but there's a free resource entrepreneurial space that perhaps you could showcase that very wonderful free feature.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yep. Sure. Good. Well, thank you again, everyone. And thank you so much, Michael. We'll follow up with you afterward.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.